What's going on, everybody? Voidlego here, back with a brand new episode of Chaos Ed Noah. Last time around, we see that Ben is still talking to Yua, and he eventually comes to a realization about something very unexpected: the Gregor Froggies. He connects the releases of the Gregor Froggies, which is every Friday, to the connection of the spikes of GE rates during the weekends, which is a big connection. Is it coincidental? Probably not, but all of a sudden these little toys started getting popular, and specifically Shibuya, out of pretty much nowhere, even though they're just like cute little frogs. But maybe it's connected to the GE rate somehow. Who knows? But meanwhile, our main boy, Takumi Masumi, he and Remy decide to go to the hospital to visit Elise. Remy leaves very, early on, which is very suspicious. Probably go to talk to Shogun, wherever the hell he is in this hospital. And so they come upon Elise's room, but she's not there at all. So they decide to split up and try to find, Elise or Remy. Eventually, Takumi comes across a hallway where, not at the back of it, but like halfway through the hallway, there's just a giant pitch black wall. And as soon as he looks at it, it just makes him dizzy, and it kind of just he just feels like absolute shit for no reason. And so he tries to go to the nurse's station, where he sees Hazuki, the same nurse that has been treating him throughout this entire game, where she's muttering something about the divine light and such. And he takes a look at her notepad after she leaves, and it's a image of the crucifixion, a cartoon-like drawing of it, the same one he saw before Shogun showed him the actual pictures of the crucifixion. Like, just a drawing of it over and over and over and over again. Which, what does that have to do with anything? I have no idea, but it's something insane. But eventually, Masumi-kun and Takumi meet back up, and they look out a window to see that Elise and Remy having a heated discussion, and that Elise actually slaps Remy, or Remy slaps Elise. No, Elise slaps Remy. That's right, and she walks away. She confronts pretty much Takayumi by himself and tells him that he's one of the Black Knights, and that that the end of the world is pretty much coming, the end serpent or whatever. And so we're back here in the hospital, and also we see Aoi, Senna, and Kazupi also look in Takumi's base, where Senna sees something that sets her off, the specific IR2 drawing with its god. She somehow recognizes it for some reason. But yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on. All I got is basic theories here and there, but it's more just confusing than anything else. Anything can happen in this story, so let's get right into it, shall we? With both our shoulders drooping toward the ground, Masumi-kun and I descended to the first floor of the hospital ward.
俺もう岸本のことはどうでもよくなった。これまでの俺のポリシーはな、タク。可愛ければ何でも許してやるだった。けどそりゃ間違ってたよ。あんな強烈なテンパ、俺には受け止めらんねえよ。素直に梢ちゃんだけ狙うことにするぜ。
You're truly a very upstanding man, Masumi. Not exactly sure if that made things any better. I mean, Masumi-kun had an actual girlfriend he was dating.
お前、マジですごいな。岸本のあの脳みそお花畑の話、よく30分近くも聞いてられるよ。
Half an hour? Jesus.
俺は3分も持たなかった。この俺がだぞ。
Don't ask me. Barely listening to Masumi-kun, I focused on my surroundings as I walked. And then I found a dazed girl standing in front of the outpatient lobby, Remy. From a side view, I couldn't see even a trace of her usual energy. She seemed deep in thought as she gazed up at the lingering sunset, her hair fluttering in the chilly breeze.
Oi! Remy!
Remy quickly turned after Masumi-kun spoke, her face brimming with surprise, and gave us a big wave. Huh. The sight of her smile filled me with relief. I instinctively ran up to her. Of course, I couldn't exactly bring myself to hug her or anything like that, so that was as far as it went.
タク、感動の再会だね。また会えて嬉しい。
どこほっつき歩いてたんだ？
病室、どこかわからなくて、あちこちさまよっちゃった。ひどいよ。置いてくなんて。
Remy made a show of pretending to cry.
お前が先に行けって言ったんだろ。
そうだったね。で、岸本さんには会えた？
As I nodded, I noticed Masumi-kun was grinning very obviously beside me.
お前、岸本にビンタされてただろ。
Oh.
さて、何のことでしょう？
Remy must have wanted to hide the fact that Luis had swapped her. That was why I'd been avoiding the topic and leaving it at that. Read the damn room, Masumi-kun.
隠そうったって無駄だぜ。俺は一部始終を見てたんだ。某家政婦のようにな。
なんだ、バレてたのか。
Her face now pointing down at the floor. Remy gave an awkward sigh, then gazed up at me.
もしかして、タクも見てたの？
そうだ。俺とタクだ。決定的瞬間をバッチリ見てた。
Dude, you don't just say that. Oh boy.
なんだ、それじゃあ必死にごまかそうとしてたのがバカみたいじゃない。
Okay, I'm just not going to click any delusions for this one because I'm actually very curious as to what her excuse is. Because I doubt she's going to tell us the truth.
屋上に行ったらちょうど岸本さんがいたから、つい気になってたことを質問しちゃったの。そしたら機嫌損ねたみたい。
What had she asked?
なんだよ。気になってたことって。
ね、
I want the truth.
剣を見せてって。
Oh! Not the answer I was expecting. No way. Could she really see disc swords too? For a split second, that was my assumption, only for it to be immediately proven wrong.
ほら、タクが前に剣のこと話してたでしょ。
Oh.
だから私も見たいなーって。
それで引っ叩かれたのか？意味わからん。岸本って、剣の話ばっかしてるのにな。さっきも病室に入った途端、グラディエーターがどうとか言い出して、マジビビったぜ。
I wonder if that is the truth, or is it something else? But what could that be? I feel like it has something to do with Takumi. I just have a feeling because the way Elise talked to him, like after, like she was completely focused on Takumi. So I'm wondering of like, I kind of just have this feeling that like Remy's kind of out to get Takumi. I mean, Shogun. Well, Shogun wants Takumi to live. He wants him to get his disc sword, right? In order to inherit his reality-altering powers, right? For what reason remains to be seen. Maybe to fight against Nozomi, maybe. But Remy kind of has a different outlook on that. Like, she kind of seemed like we have to put him down before he's a danger to everybody type of sense. At least from that one scene we saw. So, I don't know. The three of us walked shoulder to shoulder. We made our way through the outpatient lobby. The outpatient reception was already closed, meaning very few people were still there. However, the large TV screen at the end of the lobby was still surrounded by around 10 or so people. Uh-oh.
また、新しいニュージェネでも起きたんじゃね？
I feel like it's something bigger. My body stiffened at what Masumi-kun had so casually said, but immediately after that, Remy... nonchalantly grasped my hand. Thanks to the warmth of her hand, my fear stopped there. Tension in my mind felt like it was melting away. Remy was my sole support. Remy gave me peace of mind. Remy would stay by my side. It might be a little too optimistic, but I felt that as long as Remy stayed by my side, I could barely, just barely, endure any fear that might come my way. Thank God, Remy was here for me.
なあ、二人とも来てみろよ。
Mizumi-kun had already made it to the TV and was urging me and Remy over to it. All the other people there, patients both young and old, and even some nurses, had gathered around the TV. Their eyes were glued to the screen. What the hell is going on? Oh boy.
行ってみよ
The two of us moved to a place where we could see the TV, with me guided along by Remy's hand. I then timidly turned my eyes to the screen, and when I looked up at the captions on the screen, I was completely dumbfounded. What? It was a news report announcing the arrest of the new gen culprit.
繰り返しお伝えします。
Who?
今日午後3時半ごろ、警視庁渋谷署はいわゆるニュージェネレーションの凶器と呼ばれる渋谷で発生した一連の殺人事件のうち、
Arrested?
9月29日に起きた通称貼り付け殺人事件の容疑者を逮捕しました。殺人容疑で逮捕されたのは無職狛枝慎吾容疑者25歳です。
Kameda, fucking Kameda. Kameda Shingo, huh?
容疑については先ほど渋谷署で行われた記者会見の通り、今のところ太田久さん殺害についてのみで、他の事件に関する容疑は今後追及していく構えです。狛枝容疑者は太田さん殺害については容疑を認めており、
Huh.
交際している女性が太田さんにしつこくつけ回され、カッとなって首を絞めた。しかしゾンビだったため死なず、貼り付けにして動きを止めた
A zombie?
などと意味不明の供述をしています。
What the fuck?
警察の調べでは、狛枝容疑者には現在交際している女性がいないことが明らかになっており、薬物を摂取していた疑いもあるとみて捜査を進めています。
I was in a state of sheer disbelief. The TV screen was repeatedly broadcasting and recording the suspect being transported by car. The flashes coming from the mass media surrounding the car made the screen flicker violently. The suspect was completely covered by his jacket, so I couldn't see his face.
タク
Yumi whispered to me as I stared at the TV screen. Her hand squeezed my own.
やっぱりタクは犯人なんかじゃなかったし将軍っていう人も単なるいたずらだったんだよ。楠木さんだって間違った推理をしてただけね。これで何もかも解決。
I don't know about that.
もう見えない影なんかに怯えることないんだよ。
She was right. Since the culprit behind the crucifixion had been arrested, that automatically meant it couldn't have been me. I hadn't been sleepwalking, nor did I have multiple personalities. This proved that I was completely normal. And at the same time, it also disproved that I'd seen Remy covered in blood at the scene. It wasn't real. It had to be a delusion I'd come up with. It was over. The nightmare that had been tormenting me without end for almost a month was finally over. Being afraid of shadows, being afraid of God's gaze, trying desperately to get a disc sword. None of those things were necessary anymore. But even so, why? Why was there this feeling of unease deep within my chest? Shogun being a prank, and the person behind it was just stalking me for shits and giggles. Just didn't feel realistic. But maybe I was only thinking like that because I'd pretty much forgotten all normal logic and reasoning over the last month. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was on vibrate, but phones still weren't around the hospital. I let go of Wimmy, exited through the front entrance, then pulled out my phone.
はい。
the hell?
誰
I braced myself. Yume passed, might have started playing again. I quickly went to check the name of the caller. But it was a restricted number. I was hit with a really bad feeling, but when I frantically went to hang up... Oh. The horribly pained voice that come through the phone was unmistakably Naname's.
ななみ
What? ？What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? I did. Huh? What the fuck is going on? The shop specializing in Gregor Froggy merchandise was known as Top Frog. Nice shop name. But what the fuck was that? That pun was likely an attempt to leave a good impression on his customer base, but man could only sigh at what he felt was akin to a dad joke. At present, Top Frog had about 20 branches established around the capital region, and was showing no signs of slowing down in its expansion. Dan was currently visiting the very first branch situated in Harajuku, a place often cited as paradise by the biggest Gregor Froggy fans. Dan, however, quickly came to regret this decision.
なあ、ゆあちゃん。帰っていいか
He spoke in a low voice to Yua, the girl that guided them to the shop.
でも百瀬さんからゲロカエルを買ってくるように頼まれてるんじゃ。
だってよ。おじさんだけ明らかに浮いてるからさ。
Come on, I'm supposed to be cool. I'm supposed to be in my mid-30s. I'm supposed to be like fucking Columbo. Scores of young people happily trotted along Takashita Dori, but the vast majority passed by without even so much as glancing at the shop. Jesus, it's a lot of flogs. Just an entire store just for one product. I mean, I know there's pop-up shops, but you kidding me? Like, you know what? God, the more and more we find out about Gregor Farkis, the more and more it does sound like a kind of like setup of like entire stores stand up for that has 20 different locations of selling the exact same like type of flogs. You know, that's like going to well, there are Lego stores and there's an M&M store, so what the fuck am I talking about? Never mind. Only a few people were staying inside the actual store. In fact, aside from Ben and Yua, there were only 3 customers in total, all of which were high school girls. Due to Ben's unkempt appearance, walking along Takashita Dori with Yua inevitably served to portray him as a man of obscene intentions. He was just going to buy one of the plushies that was so popular nowadays, but that was what any stereotypical old pervert would say, a notion that brought down Ben's spirits considerably. Top of that...
なんか誰かに見られてるような気がするんだよな。いい年して自意識過剰かもしんねえが。
あ、それ私もです。
Oh?
最近誰かの視線を感じて、たまにすごく怖くなるんですよ。
The footsteps of Oshiro-sama.
なんで俺だけじゃなかったか。ゆあちゃんの場合は心配だな。ストーカーに付け狙われてたりしたら。
そんな怖いこと言わないでください。
安心しな。そんな奴がいたら俺が逮捕してやるから。
Resolving the topic with a grin, Ben stared fixedly at the various frog characters lined up along the shelves.
ところで、ゆあちゃんはここに来るのは何度目だ？
私も初めてです。
あんまり客がいねえようだが。静かなブームってやつなのか？
金曜日から日曜日にかけてはすごく混んでるらしいです。
Really? Weekend only?
つまり新作が発売されて週末の間だけですね。特に金曜日はものすごく並ぶらしくて、学生のために18時に販売開始なんですけど、噂だとその行列だけで竹下通りが埋め尽くされるとか。
And how long is that?
週末だけね。ますます怪しいな。
Yeah. Van went to pick up two of the teary Gregor froggies that were released last week, then headed to the register. Yua, not buying anything herself, followed behind him.
射精
The store employee was a vacuous looking man in his 20s. His hair had been dyed green, and he had earrings in. If he were not behind the register, he certainly would not look like a quirk to the passing observer. What is this, like fucking Kevin? At the very least, it was no outfit to be serving customers in. The employee stared at the two without warmth nor restraint.
娘さんへのプレゼントってやつっすか？
そうなんだよね。はあ、この子がどうしてもって言うから。まあ、たまには父親らしいことしてやらんとね。
Van forced a smile as he looked ingrainedly at the younger shop clerk. Yua's gaze fell to the floor as her face turned to one of shock. Nonetheless, she did not break the father and daughter charade.
それより、このカエルに興味あるんだけど、ちょっと話聞かせてもらっていいかな？ゲコカエルンってそんなに人気あるの？
っていうかゲロカエルんすよ。バンバン人気あってやばいっす。
ああ、ゲプカエルンね。いつも週末に新作が出るんでしょ。
ゲロカエルんだって言ってんじゃんマジ。っていうか新作とかそういう言い方マジやめてよ。新ガエルだから。
Like, dude, they're Alvin Grego buddies, bro. Come on now.
金土日と超並んでバンバン売れるんでマジやばいっすよ。マジでバンバン売れるっすから。バンバンっすよマジで。
And I really mean turbo bonkers, dude. Righteous. Are you from the 2000s or the late 90s? I can't tell. Yua's brow now narrowed in response to the young man. Bonkers seemed to be a favorite word of the shop clerk. Something felt odd to her about it. Why is he emphasizing a part of it so much, she wondered. It likely was not intentional, but I almost felt as if the young clerk was saying Van's name in some capacity.
これ、メイドインチャイナってラベルに書いてあるだけなんだけど、メーカーとかわかる？
は？メーカー？つうかゲロカエルにブランドとかねえし、ゲロカエルンはゲロカエルンじゃね？それで完結してね？おっさんマジウケんだけど。教えとくと、ゲロカエルンって作ってんじゃねえから。マジバンバン生まれてっから。
Unsurprisingly, the conversation was getting to be too much for Van, leaving him on the verge of rupture. In order to prevent this, he swiftly ended the conversation, handed over the money, then let the story of Yuan tell.
チー、店員の教育がなってねえな。今時の若い連中ときたらもうろくに会話もできやしねえ。大体なんだあの格好は。もう
そうですね。
Yua came to an abrupt halt. She grabbed Van's suit cuff and pulled him to a stop as well.
見てください、バンさん。
どうした？
Yua was pointing in the direction of a white two-ton truck. It was pulled over on the side of the road, and a number of cardboard boxes were being unloaded from the cargo bed. The boxes were carried one after the other into the back of the Gregor Froggy shop.
おお、明日発売になるゲジカエルンの新作か。
ゲロカエルンです。
ゆあちゃん、よく見つけたな。偉いぞ。
いえ、そんな。
Usually the cargo bed of a truck would have a company name or logo emblazoned on it somewhere, but the one before Ben and Yua was completely blank. Okay, this is getting fucking weird. However, the cardboard boxes being carried inside had something resembling a company name written beside a few Gregor Froggy illustrations.
有限会社振興。聞いたことあるかい？
Faith Works, huh? That doesn't sound at all suspicious or religious in any way.
ありません。
となれば困った時のももちゃん頼みだな。
Faith Works Unlimited, I guess. We parted ways with Masumi-kun at the station and then headed straight back to my base. The whole way there, it felt like I was stumbling my way through a nightmare. Nanami's face kept popping into my mind, and each time it did, her expression was different. Nanami had always been the type to wear her heart on her sleeve. When she was angry, she'd puff out her cheeks and pout, and when she was happy, she'd smile so wide and made even me embarrassed. Memories of all those different expressions made my heart thump again and again, almost painfully so. That phone call from before, the things she said, what the hell had they meant? They could only mean that the bandage wrapped around her arm when I'd seen her at school must have been... Where could she be now? At school? Or maybe she'd already gone back home?
Taku, ほら、前見て歩かないと転んじゃうよ。
Supported by Remy, the two of us came out on the roof. Oh boy.
どうしたの？
I mean, as typical. Go ahead and save. Should I go for a delusion? You know what?
これから実家に帰ってみようと思うんだ。
Ooh. You know what? Let's go with a red delusion. Why not?
これから急だね。
歩いても30分もかからないところなんだ。それで一緒についてきてほしい。
As I made that request, I was so nervous, my heart felt like it would burst out of my chest. I was even somewhat surprised that those words had managed to come out of my mouth at all. Asking someone for something. It was something I'd never been able to do before now.
嫌だよ。
Oh. She firmly declined.
私、行きたくない。
I couldn't believe my ears. I would have never thought you'd respond like that. Before that moment, Remy had always listened to me, no matter how selfish I was being. She had always helped me, supported me. So I assumed that she would agree without question, no matter what I asked her. But now that I thought about it again, that was the weird one for assuming she'd never refuse. I'd gotten too used to her taking care of me. I was being too presumptuous, expecting too much of her.
そう。
それに、
Remy turned her back to me, and then she wrapped her arms around herself.
それに、タクも行かない方がいい。
Oh.
それってどういう？
実家には戻らないで。
She spoke firmly, almost like she was ordering me not to go. I was at a loss. I had no idea what Remy was trying to achieve by saying that. What kind of face was Remy making as she had her back to me? I didn't know.
わけがわからない。
あなたは何も知らなくていい。
What? Her voice carried a sense of urgency. She felt like a completely different person from before.
ここで このコンテナハウスだけでずっと生きていけばいいの。
What?
そうしてもらわないと困るんだ。
Won't end well? Wait, this was a delusion, right? Or was it real? What the fuck? Suddenly, a high-pitched sound pierced my ears. One that sounded almost like a woman's scream. What the fuck? A strong gust of wind swept over the rooftop. The air trembled. My vision was overwhelmed by a blinding sheet of deep crimson. With no idea what had just happened, I turned my face to the light. And when I looked on top of the container house, there she stood. Whoa, shit. Yeah, I think this is real. Aoi Senna, disc sword in hand. The source of the light was her disc sword, gleaming against the sky, but something was strange. When I'd seen it before, Senna's disc sword had emitted a blue glow. The sound vanished. The wind stopped.
答える。
Her voice was sharp, her glare cold, her eyes glistened with unmistakable animosity.
これを書いたのはお前か？
As she spoke, she thrust out a piece of paper of IR2 scribbled on it, my essay. For some reason, it was all scrunched up. Why did Senna have that? What was Senna here? Illegal trespassing. Those words popped in my head, immediately followed by the realization that she had searched my room. But what for?
答えろと言っている。そうだけど。だから。
Next came the sound of Kazupi's inner voice. She was behind Senna. She was clinging to Senna's legs and her face was peeking out from behind him. She had an urgent look on her face as she looked at me. Oh, shit. Right as Kazupi screamed, Senna wept from the roof. She held the sword high and... Oh, fuck. Maybe yanked my arm and I fell backward. Quickly looked back up, then saw the place I had been staying only moments prior. Senna's sword had hollowed out the floor of the rooftop. It has such insane destructive power, such tremendous sharpness that it didn't feel real. The impact had been great enough to destroy the concrete, and yet the sword didn't even have a scratch on it. Weren't disc swords supposed to be things people couldn't see, let alone touch? A certain term crossed my mind. Real jackin'. Real boot. Her sword had been real booted. Though, through the mutual recognition of the four people here, Senna's disc sword had gone from a delusion to reality. It was now a great sword that could dead down a person for real. If Remy hadn't pulled me away in time, it would have been bisected from head to toe by that beautiful sword of yours. It would have been instant death. Oh, fuck. Shivers ran down my entire body. Just now, Senna had unmistakably tried to kill me. Why? My head was overrun with confusion. The two of us had been eating crunchy coons together just the other day. Kazupi had been there with us. It was true that our relationship wasn't far enough for me to call us friends, and that even back then, Senna had been acting scary the whole time. But even so, she shouldn't have hated me enough to suddenly come after me with a disc sword. Oh, fuck. Senna raised her head. She glared at me even more intensely than before. Her movements were incredibly fast, in spite of the fact that she was holding a gigantic sword. She kicked off the ground like she was starting a 500-meter dash. Oh, shit. The tip of her sword scraped against the ground as she brandished it. Closing the distance between us, she raised the weapon above her head. In that instant, my instincts worked out exactly what kind of situation I was in. She was serious. Senna was definitely serious. As I lay face up in a total heap, I let out a shriek. I couldn't run away. None of this made any sense. Getting a game over like this, desperately running away from Shogun, yet getting surprise attacked by Senna as a result of it. It was far too ridiculous, far too sudden. I didn't want this. I didn't want to die. I really didn't want to die! Right then, a single silhouette leapt above me and ran in between me and Senna. When I looked to see who it was, I realized it was Remy. She stretched her arms out wide to bar the way of the approaching girl. Was she putting her life on the line just to shield me?
どけ
But if she did that, she was going to die. I didn't want that. Oh, fuck.
崎畑さんには気をつけて。
Suddenly, what Kazuki had said before reappeared in my mind. Pale white buoyed past Remy's outstretched arms. Oh, fuck.
崎畑さんはよくわかんないのら。
Remy.
タクに手を出さないで。
On unifying the overflowing light, she poised her arms together. The air warped and shook. Coming seemingly from thin air, feathers of shining white burst around Remy and danced in the surrounding air. And then, what appeared in her hands. Effortlessly blocked the fierce downward swing of Senna's gigantic sword.
タクを追い詰めないで。
Shit. It was all too graceful to be called a sword, all too unfilial, enough to easily been mistaken for the wings of an angel. Then I realized a certain fact, that she, Sakahata Remy, was a giggle maniac. Son of a bitch. Oh, fuck. That is one hell of weapon design. Holy fuck. What the hell? That is... I don't even know how to describe that. Like, holy shit. Overwhelmed with shock, Aoi Senna looked at the face of the girl that stood before her. That winged sword that had so effortlessly blocked the attack of this sword. It's clearly this sword itself. If the girl she now faced was not accustomed to wielding this sword, she would not have been able to block Senna's attack with such perfect timing.
崎畑さんもギガロマニアックスだったのら。
I guess you didn't know that? Kazooie stared down at the three people from atop the container house as if she was a spectator. Her dangling legs swung back and forth again and again. Sure, acting carefree for someone who ruined my surprise attack, thought Senna, clicking her tongue inside her head. However, despite her moving thoughts, she did not remove her gaze from Remy's eyes. Her opponent had a brooding look on her face. Nishijou Takayumi moaned from behind Remy, having sunk to the ground in a pathetic display. Senna's target was ultimately him, so she had no intention of fighting with Remy. Besides, this was no manga, nor was it an anime, so a disc sword battle was not a particularly realistic thing to occur.
その男が何をしたか知っているのか IR2 という公式を
知ってるよ。
Oh? Senna had been interrupted by a quiet, sorrowful yet decisive response. Upon hearing that, Senna tightened the grip on her disc sword.
それなら
タクを覚醒させればもっと大変なことになる。
Oh
そ
shit.
の前に殺す
あなたには無理だよ。
Senna decided that there was no point in talking further. She brandished her sword in an what the hell? OI stance. Before her, Remy stood readily. Nishijou Takayumi lay about 5 long strides away from her. At this distance, it would take 3 seconds to resolve things completely. Did he accidentally create the IR2 formula? And what the hell is the IR2 formula? Without hesitation, Senna rushed towards Remy from the front. Aiming straight for the girl, she swept her disc sword toward her flank. Remy attempted to block it like before, but... oh shit. Senna's strike had been a feint. Her sword passed through both Remy's sword and body. Oh shit, she had released a real boot. Ooh, fuck, that's cool. At present, Senna's disc sword was no more than a delusion. It could touch nothing, it could cut nothing, it could kill nothing. But that had been her very aim. Due to having twisted her body to block the attack, Remy's reactions would be slowed. During that time frame, Senna always switched past her and made it 2 steps closer to Takumi. Shit. She real booted the sword once again in an instant, so that's the sound. Okay, I get you. That's the sound when someone reboots their sword, huh? This is it. Takumi faced Senna with eyes of fear as she effortlessly real booted the sword. With her disc sword that had once again become real, she moved to pierce Takumi's heart.
Senna.
What? A figure flew past the corner of her vision. The instant she heard its voice, the girl, fiercely shaken by it, missed her target. What? Who the fuck was that? The tip of the sword gazed Takumi's way and stabbed into the concrete. Senna slowly raised her head. Then let out an angry growl. At the edge of the roof, their form lit by the backdrop of the setting sun, stood a single man like a phantom among the corporeal. Oh shit. Wait. His hair and his eyes are very similar to Senna's. Is this her dad? His face was pale, deathly so. The pupils that resided within his sunken eyes were surrounded by bloodshot whites. His head hung toward the concrete, his face without expression. The instant Senna saw the man, neither Takumi nor anything else mattered to her anymore. The man Senna had chased after without end, her sole object of hatred. Oh, the man that abandoned her and betrayed his family entirely. I can't believe yeah, okay, so it is her. Wait, the person she was hunting down was her dad? That very man now stood right before her very eyes.
ようやく見つけた。
Senna took a step toward the man, gritting her teeth to hold back her overflowing hatred. She once again brandished her disc sword. Another step forward.
どうしようもなかった。私はお前の母さんを生贄に捧げるしかなかったんだ。
What?
黙れ。
母さんの最後、とても安らかなものだった。だからセナ、安心してほしい。母さんのおかげで素晴らしい実験結果が出た。母さんは世界のために役立ったんだ。
Experiment?
お前も母さんの功績を誇っていい。
黙れよ。
Blood rushed to Senna's head, rendering her no longer able to see anything other than the man that stood before her. She dashed. It happened in an instant. She flew at the man's breast, closed the distance between herself and it, then sunk her disc sword deep into its center. Was that real? What the fuck? That was Senna's long-held desire. She had roamed Shibuya daily for the sole purpose of killing this man. She had dreamt of the day she would kill him countless times, and never left her mind.
やっと母さんの仇を。
She went to remove her sword, which would grant her the opportunity to move away from the man. But before her sword could come free, the man wrapped his arms around Senna and gently embraced her.
ヨゼ、気安く触るな。
Her entire body stood on end. Him doing this now, after everything that had happened, only served to nauseate her. Long ago, in the distant past, the bond of family between Senna and the man had been severed. Even so, for some reason, she was unable to comprehend. Senna could not bring herself to throw off the man, an inability that deeply surprised her. His warmth, his large chest, the deeply real presence of her father, her hands dyed in red.
私はこんなの
あなたが
が望んだ妄想だ。
望んだ妄想だよ。
What the fuck? When she heard that whisper, Senna immediately understood. Errors slipped into dead spots. Psychological attacks. Enchantment. Seeing someone's delusions. When Senna realized her mistake, it was already too late. She lost her balance, and together with the man, her body was cast off the roof. Descended to the ground that way 8 stories below looked oh so far away. What? Unable to comprehend what the hell was going on, all we could do was watch as the scene unfolded. What the fuck? Okay, that just gave... That felt like the penultimate scene of like another visual novel from Senna's point of view. What the fuck? Okay. So the homeless guy is her father that sacrificed the mother for some reason. Okay. Senna had suddenly run to the edge of the roof, lost her balance for no reason I could see, and was about to crunch to the ground right this very second. Okay, so that was... all of it was a complete illusion. Okay. Her body... makes sense. Her body was about to disappear beyond the edge.
落ちる
I could only let out a whisper, tightly closed my eyes. She had committed suicide. Senna intentionally dove to her death. I didn't understand why, as if I could understand. She'd assaulted me out of nowhere, serves her right. That girl had just been yet another enemy. No matter how long I waited, the resounding splat of her body in concrete did not come. Yeah, I was waiting for that too. I timidly opened my eyes and tried to see what was going on. Senna wasn't falling, said she was on her knees. Remy stood right beside her. She was holding Senna's arm. Had Remy saved her? Senna threw her disc sword away and started crying like a child. What the hell was even going on anymore? From my perspective, it looked like Senna tried to die of her own volition.
辛い思いさせてごめんね。
Huh.
でもしょうがなかったの。
Remy had done something to Senna. The usually bright and happy girl I was used to felt like an entirely different person now. A bloating face, sorrowful whispers, quivering eyes. The girl standing over there wasn't the Remy I knew.
先畑さん。
The voice reverberated in my mind. Kazubi had moved from her position on top of the container house, meaning she was still staring down at us.
もう終了だよね。もしもセナさんのことぐしゃばきってしようとしてるならカズピ許さないぽん。先畑さんのことバラバラにしちゃうよ。
Jesus. A chill ran down my spine. Kazupi was speaking with her usual airheaded anime-esque tone of voice, but the things she was saying were deadly serious.
もう終わり。もともと葵さんのことどうこうするつもりはないし、タクの前から消えてくれるならこのまま解放する。
Huh. So I guess guess Rumi's power is to make other people see their own delusions, perhaps?
それは無理だってコズピーとセナちゃんとタクミちゃんはお友達だもん
I mean, I wouldn't say that now.
ねそうでしょタクミちゃん
The gears of my mind refused to move. If someone told me that everything that just happened was a dream, I'd probably believe them, just like that. Come to think of it, why had Senna attacked me so suddenly? Was Senna my enemy after all?
お前のせいで
Senna raised her head as she sobbed. She made no attempt to wipe away her tears and stayed on the ground where she had fallen to her knees. Her gaze was fixed on me.
お前のせいで私の家族は
What? I was completely bewildered. She was watching nothing but raw emotion at me. What the hell did she think I'd done? I hadn't done anything. I hadn't screwed with anyone's wives, and I certainly didn't know a damn thing about Senna's family. I was harmless as could be.
無害だと
What? She read my mind.
お前が生み出したものが世界を滅ぼすかもしれないっていうのに
Monster? Destroy the entire world? More Chuni shit again? Turned my gaze to Rumi for help, but she had her back to us. She stared vacantly at the darkening sky.
無駄だよ
Her figure, her voice, was the sheer loneliness they gave off, merely in my imagination.
タクは何も知らないから
With that statement, Remy spoke as if she knew everything there was to know.
ふざけるな今渋谷を襲っている混乱は全部あの公式が発端なんだぞ
What? Formula?
それ以上言わないでタクは本当に何も知らないの
From the sounds of it, she was talking about me, but I couldn't follow the conversation at all.
公式ってこれのこと
Jizupi wept down from the container house, holding my essay in her hand. She held out the back of the essay to us. I saw what I doodled on it back in elementary school. IR2. The chaos infesting Shibuya right now had started from this? Talk about an absurd accusation. There's no way in hell some random doodle could affect anything, let alone of that magnitude. I just doodled the thing on a complete whim when I was bored or something. Probably. It was a long time ago, so I didn't remember it all that well. But I did know there was no real meaning behind it. I just copied down numbers I'd seen in a dream. It was a dream related to whose eyes are those eyes, which I wouldn't about on the front. I used those words all the time since even before I written it, and whenever I had, it would all take shape in my dreams more and more. Within one of those dreams were those numbers.
FUN の10乗かける INT の40乗イコール IR2
Function to the 10th power integer times integer to the power of 40? Maybe? I don't know. Or function to the power of 10 and interloper to the power of 40? After a while, Senna wiped the tears from her eyes. Now they were a deep scarlet. While still on the ground, while still hanging her head down in regret, she formed a sentence.
この公式をお前が生み出した瞬間世界は分岐したんだ
What? Fuck you mean the world diverged? Oh, here we go. Back to the...
ノア2に搭載されている中で最も秀でているのは中核システムに組み込まれたとある方程式です。
Okay, I was not expecting that. I was taking a sip from my drink. I did not expect it. Oh, okay.
これは人類史上未だ回答が見つかっていないとされているもの。
Solution?
ミレニアム7のうちの一つかね
Millennium Prize problems. Is that a real thing? Because it kind of sounds familiar. Oh, actually, it is real. A 7 of 7 math problems that were published in the year 2000 CE by the Quay Mathematics Institution in the United States. The 7 problems had never been solved prior to their publication, and a $1 million prize was promised to anyone that managed to solve any of the 7. As of 2007, only one of the problems has been solved, and there are 6 remaining. Huh. Interesting.
億単位の懸賞金がかけられているという数学界で未だ未解決の7つの問題か。
いいえ、その7つの中には入っていません。
It's the secret eighth one.
ですが、実はミレニアム7はもともと問題が8つあって公開前に1つだけ削除されたのです。
Is it integer or function times or integer times fucking function?
それがノア2に組み込まれている方程式だと。
Is this the equation that's able to mess with people's perceptions? Sounded more and more like the anti-life equation.
削除された理由は？
世界に最悪をまき散らす可能性があるためというところです。
It really is the anti-life equation.
一体どのような数式なのだ？
基本相互作用における電磁気力を想定した共鳴現象。それを表す計算式です。
Okay. Time to look at what that means. In physics, this refers to any of the 4 basic forces that interact between elementary particles. These are electromagnetic interaction, gravitational interaction, weak interaction, and strong interaction. Okay. A theory that explains all elementary particles and the 4 fundamental interactions in a uniform manner has yet to be established. If such a theory were ever finished, it is predicted that it would be able to consistently explain everything from the subatomic scale to the far corners of the universe. Okay, so the basic... how each particles like interact with each other. Okay.
これにより特定の電磁パルスと受容体とが近接作用することで発現する未知の力が解明されました。
Okay.
各国が30年以上かけて開発し積み上げてきた沈黙の兵器の研究成果を一瞬にして過去のものとしてしまったんですよ。
Damn.
その問題に回答を見つけた者は神になるに等しいというわけだ。
それを君が果たしたというわけかね。
それはとても不思議な場所から見つかりました。子供の落書きというね。
What?
IR2 ノア2のいわゆるハードウェア部分はこの公式によって神に匹敵する能力を手に入れました。
So what the fuck is... Okay, so what... I'm just very curious as to like... Wait, what is function, integer, and IRT? What the hell do those stand for?
あとはソフトウェア部分に相当するギガロマニアックスのコードサンプルを集めれば
Okay.
ノア2は本格的に稼働し我々の望むものすべてを実現してくれるでしょう。
Maybe that's why they started investigating him, is because they found that. Huh. Guess that would make sense.
かのアインシュタインが現代に生きていればと思うよ。彼は高い能力を持つギガロマニアックスだったと聞く。
Einstein was a gigomaniac.
家庭の話よりも現状がどうなっているかだ。ギガロマニアックスは世界中に数えるほどしかいないというではないか。大丈夫なのか？
すでに5人分のサンプルは確保しました。
Oh boy.
ノア2稼働に十分な数は集まったようだね。
ならば結構。
ただサンプルが多ければ多いほどノア2の能力は向上します。特に どうしてもサンプルを採取したいギガロマニアックスの少年が一人いましてね。
Oh shit, they haven't got Takumi.
だからといって計画の遅延は許されんぞ。
ノア2の本格稼働はいつ頃になりそうなのかね。
稼働前に最終実験としてサードメルトを行います。
Third melt.
また地震を起こそうと。
予測規模は
想定では関東大震災と同レベル。
Oh shit, the Great Kanto
関
earthquake?
東大震災クラスだと。
マグニチュード 7.9 だったかな。
現在の建築基準と免震対策レベルを考えれば町にかつてほどの大きな損害を及ぼすことはないでしょ
だが犠牲者の数はファーストセカンドの日ではなかろ
う。およそ5000人ほどといったところです。少なく見積もってですが。問題が
責任は貴様が取るのだろうな。
腹でも切って死んでみせますか。これが最終実験です。サードメルトが予定通りの成果を上げたとき、ノア2は完全なる完成を見る。
Shit.
世界の可能性は我らの手の中に。
Possibilities. Okay. Okay. Okay.
この公式をお前が生み出した瞬間、世界は分岐したんだ。
Okay. So the brainwashing is, I think, just like a kind of just like one of the effects of Noah 2. That's not its full extent. The full extent of Noah 2 seems to be they get this formula, they get the samples of literal maniacs who have weapons that are able to interact with reality. They try and get as many samples as possible in order to create a machine, a weapon that is quite literally able to change reality as it wants. That's their ultimate fucking goal. Because once you get that, who the hell is going to stop you? If you're able to change reality on a whim, how can anybody stop that? And they all got it from Takumi. Ha. Because he wrote down a formula from his dream, which was an older version of himself, like showing himself like a time machine or something like that, or just like some machine, which is very interesting. Okay.
分岐って
What, like with routes? This wasn't a okay. Well, after this boyfriend there, it might be death where he wants.
たく
Damn, this really is just the 101. we got Takumi, we got fucking different girls with their own special class weapons. Just another round in 100 wine.
もう行こう。話聞く必要なんてないよ。
Remy pulled on my hand, pointing me to go inside my room. Her demeanor oozed feelings of desperation. Remy was afraid of something.
葵さんが言ってることは全部嘘っぱちだし。
嘘はそっちだろ。
葵さん、もう帰って。タクの前から消えてよ。
Who should I believe?
たかが数式になんでそんなに目くじら立てるんだよ。
本当に何も分かってないのか。
Well,
アインシュタインが唱えた E イコール MC の事情、これが発表されたことで核兵器が開発されるという未来が生まれたように。
well, yeah.
お前の生み出した IR2 もまた E イコール MC の事情と同じ、いやそれ以上の影響力を世界に与えている。 IR2 は沈黙の兵器を現実のものとした。
沈黙の兵器。
思考盗撮、視覚投影、五感制御。
Yeah, I knew I heard that term before. Fucking sound of weapons. Wasn't that the patented technology Senna told me about before? The one that she was investigating? Yeah.
ギガロマニアックスは特別。いや、異常ではなくなる。
Huh.
これからはこの忌々しい力を誰もが自由に使えるようになるんだ。 IR2 を元に作られた装置によってな。
Oh.
もっとも、その前に一握りの腐った連中に独占され、人々は気づかないうちに家畜同然の立場になるよう洗脳されてしまうだろうが。
How would I have known all this? Go on and on about this shit till the end of time. It still wouldn't change that I didn't know anything. Even if Senna was speaking the truth, I never would have intentionally tried to make something so horrifying. Not in a million years. It was just a doodle made by a kid. I hadn't done anything wrong.
そのアイアーム2は
IR2。
それはギガロマニアックスの力のことをキュッピーンって説明したものなんだ。やっぱりあのおじさんが言ってたのは本当だったのら。
Oh, the homeless guy.
一番重要なのはその目、誰の目を生み出した少年なんだって。それってたくみちゃんのことだったんだね。
Kazubi spoke in a queer-free tone. Never been able to act as innocent as she could. Just like me, Remy also showed no signs of answering. Senna, meanwhile, opened her eyes wide and raised her head with a start. She rose to her feet, staggering. Why was she flirting so unsteady? Did it have something to do with what Remy had done to her earlier?
小杖、お前今なんて言った？
Oh.
ホビ？
Senna drew closer to the puzzled girl, pressing her for answers.
おじしゃんって誰のことだ？
Oh boy.
あんたね、コズピーに理想度の大切さを教えてくれた人。東京に来て初めて話した人なの。なんかね、ふぎゅーって鼻つまみたくなっちゃう格好してて、へんてこなこと書いた板持ってたの。世界は終わるとかとか。
Huh.
なんでそれを早く言わなかった？
そんなこと言われても。
あいつだ。やっと見つけた。
Me, Remy, and Kazupi, the three of us, unable to understand what Senna meant, could only watch her confusion as Senna's blood-curdling demeanor boiled and bubbled.
私はやっとあいつを殺せる。
Huh. Shit, man. Oh boy. So, it's interesting. First the formula, then whose eyes are those eyes? And that's two things, right? One had been like, you know, somehow Nazumi got that because they were investigating Takumi because of the whole incident. Maybe they were informed about it or some such like that. They're part of a fucking government New World Order. They probably get information like that, right? And they were able to use it to, you know, create not create possibilities, but start the process of creating this weapon to basically make anybody a maniac. Basically anyone to influence reality. The other thing I find very interesting is that I think the reason why whose eyes or those eyes became such a big thing was one, because it was part of the new gen murders, right? And two, it is Takumi's just sort of influence on reality, actually. It's his influence on reality that made it such a big thing. And I wonder, because the first time we got introduced to Gregor Froggies, Nanami had it, right? I wonder because of that, because Nanami just found it very, like, it was just a cute little frog brush she had on her phone, that, you know, Takumi thought, like, oh, it's just the newest trend with, you know, DQNs, right? Because he thought that, because he had that kind of unconscious, like, perception of the Gurgo Froggy, did it make it popular then? Did his influence on reality is so unconscious that his mere perception of a certain object automatically made it popular in reality? Is it to that such an extent of, like, reality bending power? I mean, I don't think, like, I feel like it would make sense, because why else? Like, because I'm trying to look at the Gregor Froggy situation. This is also a fucking can of worms. At first, I thought Nozomi were using the New Gen murders as a way to, as a direct distraction from the real shit going on. Their experiments with Noah, right? The earthquakes, the mind controlling, simply served as a distraction. Let everybody focus on this weird series of murders, right? Then we have the introduction of the Gurgo Froggies. Is that the real distraction? Or is that just like... Because I don't see any benefit to that. It's just like a small product in the midst of everything else. It would make more sense to commit the murders because it's much more sensationalized, more popular. A lot more people would have their eyes on that instead of some Gregor Froggies. So I'm wondering, the New Gen murders are caused by Nozomi in order to create a distraction. Something to pin everything on, and, you know, eventually they get a quote-unquote culprit, right? Just some random guy they find off the street and put some handcuffs on them, right? That's the distraction. Then the Gurgo Froggies, why they're so popular, is because of Takumi's influence on reality itself, just unsubconsciously. Because he thinks it is popular with DQNs, like his sister, that it made it popular. But it doesn't explain the G rate, though. That doesn't explain that. But I'm trying to connect all these fucking things together. It's like I got all the pieces here. We're getting the connective tissue between them with these extra scenes, right? We're getting the tissue between them, but there's still some, like, parts. There's still, like, corner edges of this puzzle that haven't been connected to the other corners yet of this big picture. And I'm trying to, like, come up with some reason as to how this all fucking connects, because it's so, like, separated. It boggles the mind, really. And I kind of love that. I love when a story just forces me to, like, make theories on how all this is connected, you know? That's why I really like these visual novels, especially these ones I play. You know, it tickles my brain. There had once been a certain experiment, but it was an experiment she had known nothing of. Oh. She was a perfectly ordinary housewife and had been blessed with a second child in her room before turning 40. No, perhaps perfectly ordinary might not have fit her quite so well. After all, her eldest daughter was already old enough to enter high school, a 15-year gap from the second child. She had been slightly worried that her eldest daughter, adolescent that she was, would oppose the pregnancy. However, the exact opposite proved to be true. Her daughter's heart sank when she heard the news. Her husband, an established scientist, often lost himself in his research and faith. Rarely ever came home to his family, but when he was home, he always did his best to be a good husband and father. So while she housed some dissatisfactions, they would never surpass the love she held for her husband. Her second child was delivered with an issue, a healthy girl of 2,579 grams. She named the child Nana. Soon after, her husband was unfortunately made to transfer far away. Her husband held no capacity to support himself with even the most basic of life skills, forcing her to ask her stable daughter to go with him and tend to her father's needs. Since she was now living alone with the newborn Mana, they then opted to move to an affordable company housing as per her husband's plan. She had initially been living in an apartment within the suburbs, but this made transport inconvenient. The new company house, however, was in the best area of Shibuya, and many of her husband's colleagues and his families lived close by. Her considerate husband claimed that, because of this, there would be nothing to worry about in her times of need, including when she needed help with the baby. Every room in the company house was spacious, and she particularly favored the bedroom. One wall was home to a large mirror, and the opposite wall had an even larger window. From there, she could view the luscious greenery of Yogi Park. She then went on to quickly befriend a housewife living close by and received extraordinary treatment from the company, namely being provided a housekeeper. She was proud. With the baby, shut up! She was proud. She was proud of her husband for holding such an important position within his company, one that allowed her to live in such a luxurious way, and so her life without worries nor dissatisfaction continued. 2 years passed, while Mana experienced delayed growth. She had grown into a healthy child, all while not contracting any major illnesses. She was a very pampered child. If she did not cradle Mana in her arms, the girl would start crying in a voice so shrill it could shatter even the thickest glass. Regrettably, she had fallen ill about a month prior. A particularly grave symptom of a fierce tinnitus, something she suffered from throughout most hours of the day. Fortunately for her, the housekeeper and the housewife next door were more than willing to assist her with taking care of Mana. Regardless of the help she received, she was essentially joined at the hip with Mana and was never able to part from her even for a moment. Even going to the bathroom, even while taking a bath. If a thought were to even cross her mind about having the housekeeper cradle the baby for a short time, Mana would detect those intentions and immediately burst into tears. Contrary to what might surmise, she actually found endearment in how much Mana clung to her, but due to the inseparability of the two, she continued to live a life where she could never take even a single step out of her own home. Her lifestyle was entirely supported by the housekeeper and the housewife. For her, meeting the two had become her true saving grace. Finally. Okay. However, over time, something odd began to happen with the two helpers. During a friendly chat in the living room that occurred a week prior, the housewife had spontaneously vomited without warning. Jesus. Paying no heed to the confusion she showed, the housewife then rushed outside. She had not seen her since, leaving her to worry that she had perhaps fallen ill. Concerned, she decided to ask the housekeeper if she could check on her. As the housekeeper left that day, she made her request, concluding with an "I'd love your help tomorrow as well, dear," and yet when the housekeeper heard these words, she suddenly burst into tears and could only nod again and again as she departed. The tinnitus that had been tormenting her so became fiercer that night, to the point where it felt as if her head itself might split apart. She tried calling an ambulance, but the line refused to connect. She then tried going outside to ask a neighboring housewife for help, but even that proved too much for her. Throughout all of this, her daughter continued to cry incessantly, further agitating her pain. In order to endure this terrible pain, she embraced her beloved Mana. And as she did so, both the tinnitus and the crying abruptly stopped. The pain in her head vanished just as suddenly, almost as if it had never been there to begin with. Oh, what if Mana's a gigomaniac? Oh. She then looked down, only to see that the child she was holding was now a mummified corpse. What? In spite of how healthy had been crying until that very moment, the body had suddenly become a desiccated, rotting mound of flesh, one that gave off the most repulsive stench. Wait, and so before she could ever realize it was all an experiment, her mind broke. Oh. Wait. There had once been a certain experiment. Wait, what? No, the baby wasn't the maniac. It was the wife. That's why the housewife vomited, and that's why the... Oh. Okay. Okay, they were... Okay. She never left the house because she was with a dead baby the entire time. Her mind had contorted to herself that her child was still alive and that she could never let her go. Oh, fuck. But it was an experiment that ran different to how he had hypothesized. Oh my god. He was a scientist in Nozomi technology, a follower of the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light. What? Okay. Cosmic Church of the Divine Light? Okay, that's connected with Haruhi Wiki, and yeah, that explains the bedroom, the large fucking window. Of course, it's a two-way fucking mirror. The man at the center of Nozomi's strictly confidential Project Noah, and the man that deciphered function 10 times integer 40 IR2. He had offered his wife on the verge of childbirth as a test subject for the experiment. While that had been an instruction from the founder that he revered, it had been just as much his own suggestion, all to ensure the success of the experiment. What a bastard. It was christened the Mana Experiment, as the codename given to their second daughter. His eldest daughter at 15 was placed in a Cosmic Church of the Divine Light institution, all while he observed his confined wife and infant child for 24 hours a day. Oh, Jesus. His wife had been led to believe that the place she resided in was a company house, but in reality it was a test site that Nozomi Technology had prepared, a site containing the Noah 2 prototype he was developing. Same helmet that was given to Elise. Mind reading, visual projection, and control over the 5 senses. In order to research the effects of such practices, he walked his wife and daughter, Mana, on the site as test subjects. Not much was known about the effects of electromagnetic radiation on the human body, so he very much intended to halt the experiment midway if his wife or child showed any strange abnormalities. Okay, so they were still both alive at the start. Okay. The experiment was then met with an unfortunate accident soon after it began. Mana passed away at 1 month of age, her cause of death unknown. Oh god. It was an accident nobody could have prevented. He was overcome with sorrow and attempted to bring the experiment to a close, and yet such a thing was not permitted to him. Those were the words of his employer. His employer was referring to the bizarre sight visible within the experiment. His wife did not seem to recognize Mana's death as real, instead treated her remains as if they were still her child. In her eyes, Mana had never died, but in truth, these things were all a simple projection, a reality only she was privy to. This was an effect of the Noah 2 prototype, and in a certain sense, the situation provided an optimal opportunity to test its capabilities. Consequently, he had his wishes disregarded. Eventually, even he came to think that continuing experiment would be best for his wife's sake. Jesus. Looking upon the one-way mirror, his wife would embrace the corpse of their child and live her every day in blissful happiness. She would gaze through the window toward the greenery of Yoki Park, but in reality the window was a mere wallpaper and the scenery a projection. And yet, she simply smiled at the view, all while gently tending to her child as she cooed. Staff belonging to a research team would take care of his wife, with one pointing the wall of a neighboring housewife and the other a housekeeper. As long as the experiment continued, her mind would never break. As such, he told himself that this was all for his wife's sake. But still... God... Though in truth, perhaps his mind had broken far before his wife's ever could. Yeah. At some point in time, his goal had changed from completing Noah to forcing his wife to continue living in an endless dream. Huh. So he's the one that cracked it, huh? Okay. After continuing the experiment for 2 years, his employer suddenly announced an end to the project. Okay, shit, I was right.
データは十分取れました。ノア2本格稼働は間近です。この実験ももう続ける意味はないでしょう。
He vehemently opposed this, his desperation evident, and yet this passion had him branded a traitor, and it was subsequently removed from the project. Wow. As a gesture of kindness, he was permitted to be present at the test site on the final day of the experiment, albeit within restraints. And with him, his daughter, of whom he had not seen across those 2 years, was forced to be present. A look of bewilderment rose to her face when she noticed him.
父さん、これはどういうこと？母さんに何をしたの？
Oh my god.
母さんが抱いているのは一体。
He was unable to answer. His guilt over what he had done prevented him from looking his daughter in the eye. Meanwhile, the start of the ghastly ritual was drawing near. The housewife had long since become unable to endure Mana's rotting stench, and the housekeeper had left the test site in tears in response to his wife's words. Then the equipment was stopped. Oh my god. The dream ended. And his wife broke. Oh, fuck. In her eyes, what was once her child had suddenly transformed into a mummy. A sight that brought her to scratch at her scalp, tear out her hair, dig her fingernails into the flesh of her face, and then, oh god. Oh god! Began to lavishly devour the desiccated body of her own child? Through every tear of flesh, she continued to laugh manically, bang her head against the wall, before eventually, she took a kitchen knife. Ugh. Drove the blade into her own eyes, and died right where she stood. Jesus Christ. The daughter cried and screamed as she watched her mother's horrific end from beyond the one-way mirror. Oh my god. His daughter was then taken away by 2 researchers, with one taking hold of each arm. He was not even granted the opportunity to pursue his only remaining relative. He blamed himself for everything, believing he had reaped what he himself had sowed. Regardless of his reasons, when he had resolved to continue the experiment 2 years ago, it had been obvious how things would end. Mere days after bearing witness to his wife's death, he vanished, and now Darius still knew of his current whereabouts. Well, shit. No fucking wonder Senna hates his fucking guts. Oh my god. I have to say, I really... All a visual novel has to do is describe a scene, not show anything, and just describe it to me and just have sound effects here and there. That's all it does, because that's so much, like, well, I wouldn't say better, but, like, it paints a way gassier version in my mind than obviously we just seen it, because it just... God, that one sound effect of, like, scratching a fresh really bothered the shit out of me. Oh my god. Ugh. Just imagining in my head is so much worse than actually seeing an image of it. Which, you know, it's kind of the same thing with the Shion fingernail scene from Higurashi, right? It's just your imagination is way worse than what could ever be drawn, you know? That type of thing. But, god damn, man. Oh, Jesus, man. Fuck. God, that's horrible, man. Ugh. Ugh. Ate her baby. It's like, fucking... Reminds me of that one scene from Phantom Blood where fucking vampire mom eats her baby. Ugh. After everything had settled, Senna gone on to interrogate Kazupi about something with bloodshot eyes, and then after doing that for a bit, she ran off somewhere on her own. Kazupi had chased after her, but I, meanwhile, had just been staying put, still incredibly confused as to why Senna had become so obsessive all of a sudden. And now I was charging to oh god. Shimono Kitazawa. My parents' house was only a short distance away. Walking from my base to it took less than half an hour. Could Nanami be there? Though not as busy as Shibuya itself, the roads of Kitazawa were fairly crowded. Okay, so Takumi going to his parents' house. I was still being hit by the aftermath of that Esper debacle. Namely, some passerbys looked at me with mocking sneers, while others even took pictures of me on their phones. Overwhelmed by embarrassment and humiliation, I hurried along the road to home.
ごめんね。
Rimi's eyes were pointed to the ground as she said that. She was walking a bit behind me, and the time we spent moving along, she already repeated those words over 10 times.
黙ってて。ごめん。
No matter how much she apologized, I had no way of answering. I didn't know anything about Rimi. Nothing had changed ever since we first met. And yet, she supported me. She stayed by my side. But at the end of the day, there was still so much I didn't know about her. Even so, I'd always brushed that issue out of my mind. Perhaps it was because something in me knew that she wouldn't stay with me if I knew the truth. And that terrified me.
どうして僕と一緒にいてくれるの
I worked up the courage and asked her what was on my mind. I asked her the reason why she would stay with a guy like me. Was it because she was trying to lure me into a trap the entire time, just like Yua had? And yet, despite my suspicions, the answer she gave was nothing of the sort.
あなたに目覚めて欲しくないの。
Whoa.
普通の生活を送って欲しかった。
Didn't want me to awaken, like, as a giggle maniac? Rimi knew more about me than I did.
一体君は何者なの
私は
Rimi hesitated a little.
私はタクの友達だって思ってる。
Really?
友達でいたいな。
In other words, she was telling me to stop pushing? But there was no way I could stop there.
僕はギガロマニアックスなの。
そうとも言えるし、
Yeah.
違うとも言える。
So he hasn't awakened yet. Which was it? Was he trying to dodge the question?
君は IR2 のこと知ってたの
聞いたことがあるだけ。
She didn't say from who.
セナが言ってたのは本当なの
嘘だよ。
Wise. tell me it was all wise, was why in and of itself. Could tell just from looking at her.
君は
I was about to ask more, but I held my tongue. Are you my enemy? Are you my friend? Depending on the answer, I might have not been able to stay away from me, so I didn't ask. If I pretended that nothing had happened, I could keep on deceiving myself just as I had been up until now. That way might have been easier for me. Happier, even. Okay, that was what I was going to do. I was going to keep being ignorant and keep living a lie. Lie told by Remy. Remy had saved my ass so many times already, so there was no way any harm would come to me if I did that. I deserved to live a normal life, just like she said.
ありがとう
I averted my eyes from her and swapped out my question for a few words of gratitude.
守ってくれて
ドク
I couldn't think of anything else to say, so I just continued walking toward my parents' house in silence. My eyes were eventually met with a familiar alleyway. It was a quiet, secluded residential area. Every now and then I could hear the faint sound of a train in the distance. I'd known this specific chunk of scenery ever since I was a little kid. This was where I'd grown up. I walked to both elementary school and middle school using this alleyway. If I headed through the narrow alleyway in front of me, my house would be right there. I was scared of seeing Nanami again, but I had to know for certain whether her arm was still there. I stopped and took a deep breath to calm myself, and then when I was about to start walking again.
待って
Oh. Is his parents' house, like, not there, or, like, what? I turned around to see Remy on the verge of tears.
どうしても行くの
Oh god, what is it?
ねえ行かないでもう普通じゃいられなくなるよ
Oh.
私そんなの嫌だな
What was that supposed to...
帰ろうあのコンテナハウスに帰ろう私タクが望む限りずっと一緒にいるからそれで一緒に学校に行って大臣と3人で他愛もない話をして帰りに立ち食いそば屋さんとか CD ショップとかに寄ってそうやってこれからもやっていこうよ
僕はナナミに会わなくちゃ
いないよきっと
Why was she so sure? Or was it just another lie? Something bad happened to me if I went home?
私タクの悲しむ顔見たくない
So you say.
もう謎かけみたいなことはやめてよ
What the hell are we going to see? I'm actually kind of like, getting a little bit of goosebumps. I had enough. She was telling me to stay ignorant forever? I couldn't go on like this, pretending like I knew nothing. Of course I couldn't. Each and every person I knew just kept hitting me with non-stop cryptic nonsense. It never ended. I really did want to stay ignorant. I really did.
実家に行っちゃいけない理由があるなら言ってよこんな中途半端なのうんざりなんだ
Sick of it? Did I have any right to say that? Wasn't I the one who always half-assed everything? Who never said what I really meant? Wasn't I the one who always ran away from everything? Yeah, I was. All the more reason to just keep doing that, from now until forever. It was time to go home. Remy was right. I didn't need to see Nanami at all. If I was planning on checking whether she had her right hand or not, then what the hell would I do if she didn't? Wouldn't that be all my fault? Nanami would hate me, resent me. All it would have done was solidify that I was a pathetic loser that couldn't even save his own little sister. If I left everything up in the air like it was now, I wouldn't have to be loaded with guilt. So, that was what I'd do. It was the optimal choice. Don't look at anything. No matter how many mysteries come your way, ignore them. Shut yourself away from the world.
ほんと世話が焼けるなナナがいないと何にもできないんだから
ダメだ
Nanami's cheerful voice popped into my head.
ダメだよ
If I ran away now, I wouldn't be able to face Nanami for the rest of my life. I wouldn't be able to go back home for the rest of my life.
Taku.
No. I clenched my fist and stepped forward into the narrow alleyway that led to my parents' house. I was less than 50 meters away now. At first, I just speed walked. Then I started running toward the home I'd been raised in. 30 meters to go. 20 meters. Oh, God. Is it going to be like a Nozumi base or something? Or like, what the hell is it going to be? 10 meters. 0 meters. And when I worked, the house I knew was gone.
あれ
The name on the doorplate was wrong. It wasn't Nishijou. In fact, the entire shape of the house was wrong. It was far newer and nicer than the home I'd lived in. I walked around. I wondered if I'd mistaken one of the neighboring houses for mine. But I hadn't. Actually, none of the surrounding scenery lined up with my memories. I considered that maybe I'd gotten lost or taken the wrong alley, but there was no way that could have happened. I recognized the entire route until now. I knew for a fact I remembered the route. But my home wasn't at the end of it. After taking the path from my memories, the scenery that should have been there had appeared in a completely unfamiliar one instead. Jamas Fu. What should have been a familiar place felt like I was setting foot in it for the first time.
シャメビューだ。
違うよ。
Huh. Oh. Remy stood right behind me. She had denied my words immediately.
この世界にタクの帰る場所はないの。
What? What the fuck? In this world? Oh god, the real chair. Fuck it. The sunset illuminated the one corridor of the hospital. The lights were not turned on in this short period before night fell, rendering it fairly dim. The clamor of dinner time from before had calmed, and an eerie silence descended in its place. Shogun was slowly traveling down the corridor in his wheelchair. The creaking of the wheels echoed throughout the empty hall. Many nurses passed him by, but none spoke to him, nor even so much as glanced his way. Acting as though this was perfectly normal, Shogun continued to spin the wheels with his hands, emaciated skin and bone as they were. When he passed in front of one of the rooms, a male patient known as Rami called out to him. He pointed at him with his index finger, sounding a frantic cry. So I was right. Yeah. Together with Yamai, the nurse had to face a complete befuddlement.
ほら、アミちゃんが帰ってきたよ。またお外に出かけてたんだ。いけないんだ。
誰もいませんよ。
The nurse looked around and looked at the man with a forced smile on her face. Despite the fact that Shogun was passing through the corridor right before her very eyes, this nurse spoke as if there was no one there at all.
また山井さんは私のことからかってるんでしょう。でも今日は騙されませんからね。
アミちゃん、ラウミちゃん、タウミちゃん。
Yamai became increasingly worked up as he continued to cry out. Shogun simply ignored him and suddenly turned right at the end of the hallway. Fuck. The wall, which had been cream-colored up until that very moment, suddenly changed to black. And yet, even though that wall stood right in front of him, Shogun did not halt his wheelchair. Son of a bitch. Right before he was about to collide with it, the black wall suddenly vanished. It, quite literally, had vanished. After the wall disappeared, a hidden corridor appeared from beyond its past reign. Shogun continued straight through it. He traveled another 20 meters before finally reaching a true dead end. At that dead end was one door to a hospital room. Shogun opened the door and headed inside. It was the Phantom Hospital Room, the ghost story whispered about for many years, the tale of a room nobody knew of. And the person hospitalized with him, the name written upon the nameplate was... Okay, what the fuck? What the fuck is happening? What the fuck? Chapter 8, Chapter 9. Oh my god. Was I right? I can't believe, was I fucking right in saying Shogun was Takumi from the future? Oh, what the fuck is happening? What? When did I come up with that theory? I feel like I said that so fucking long ago. Oh my god. It doesn't exist. Oh, there's so much to dissect. There's so much to think about. Oh my god. Fuck, man. This has been great. Holy shit. Oh my god, this has been great. Oh, I cannot wait to see more. I really can't. Oh my god. By the way, first route. This is the first fucking route, fellas. This is 1 out of like what, 10 or like 9? Is it 9 or 10? I've completely forgotten. Who knows how long those routes are as well? Maybe they're probably shorter than this first playthrough. Maybe they're longer. I don't know. But holy shit. Holy fucking shit. Oh, damn, I love this. This story is so good. I really love it. Holy shit. It's actually so fucking good. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, hit the like button. Tell me something, put it down in the comments below. Check out Discord server hanging out in, or my Twitter, check the description below. And yeah, this has been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time on fucking Chaos Head. See ya!